Hello students, this is your mentor Abhishek Anand. I've been training students for CLAT for over a decade now, and it makes me feel extremely happy to share with you that every year my students make it to top 4 law colleges. In today's session of mine, I'll take you through the skills required to ace the legal reasoning section. I will compare questions of old pattern CLAT with new CLAT pattern, and in the process, I'll explain the differences between the two. Since this is a theory class, the duration of the video may be slightly longer than my other videos. You may watch the video at 1.5 times the speed. Let's start the class. So let's start with the first class on legal reasoning. Now in this class today, I'll start with making a comparison between the old pattern CLAT questions in legal reasoning and the new pattern. Now both the patterns, guys, they check one skill of yours, which is decision making skills. But let me just share some questions with you and then point out the difference between the two. So in the earlier pattern of CLAT examination, this used to be a question. You were given a principle, then a fact situation, and then you have to make a decision. So kindly go through this question. You may pause the video for a while, go through this question, and then play this video again. All right. Okay. So the decision that you have to make is, so there are two parties, Ashok and Rajendra. Ashok is not honoring his promise. So what can Rajendra do? So there are 4 options for Rajendra. He can file a suit in the court, and the court will order Mr. Ashok to pay the loan as per the promissory note. Mr. Rajendra will have to tell the parents of Mr. Ashok, and they have to repay the amount. Mr. Rajendra cannot legally recover the amount he has paid, and Mr. Rajendra can wait till Mr. Ashok gets a job and then recover the said amount. So basically 4 option choices, and you have to make a decision. But how do you make the decision? You have to make decision on the basis of the principle that is given to you. And what is the principle here? Yes, the principle here is a person who is a minor. And please note that the age of minor is also given. You do not have to use your external knowledge or knowledge of law per se. So they might have given you here that the minor is below the age of 17 years. So you'll have to use that 17 years in that case. In this case, they've given that the minor below 18 years is not competent to contract, right? So if you're a minor, you cannot enter into a contract. Now, Ashok is aged 17.5 years, which is less than 18 years. So he's a minor, he's not competent to contract. So if you enter into a contract with him, that is not enforceable. Yeah. So of the choices that we have, C becomes the correct answer here, because if I apply the condition, he cannot legally recover the amount he has paid because Ashok was not competent to contract. So this is old pattern question, which principle was given to us categorically, and we have to apply the fact situations, apply the principle to the fact situation and come to a decision. Now let's compare this with the new pattern. So in the new pattern question, first of all, a principle is not directly given. Instead, you are given a passage. A passage may have different criteria, may have different principles, right? So it may have 3 principles, it may have 4 principles, but typically CLAT gives you a passage which ranges between 400 to 480 words per passage. And on the basis of that, you have to answer the question. So again, I would suggest that you pause the video, go through the article in the meantime, and then see the question. Yeah. So this is what the question is. So again, here in this question also, a factual scenario is given to you or a caselet is given to you. All right. So look at this one. And here also you are expected to make a decision, which is, will he succeed? So basically, he wants to file his income returns using ITR form 1 and 4, right? But the CBDT says that he is ineligible to file his returns in these forms, and he has to fill in using more detailed forms. So will he succeed? You have to make a decision. In this case, the extra effort that you have to put in is you have to identify that which principle applies to him, right? So if you go through the passage, this principle gets activated here. ITR 1 and 4 are meant for people with income up to rupees 50 lakhs per annum from salary, business or profession. And what is Parvez salary? 60 lakh from his profession, from his practice. So he has exceeded the amount. So he will not fall in this category.
And because it does not fall in this category, the answer would be this one. No, since his annual income is more than rupees 50 lakhs. So what is the difference between this type and the earlier type is, in this type, we have to first figure out which one is the relevant criteria, which one is the relevant principle to answer this particular question. So that becomes important here. So there are steps too. First, identify the principle, then apply it. In the previous type, there was the principle was directly given to us. Let us do one more question from this. Look at this one. Yeah. Again, the choice that you have to make, or the decision that you have to make is, can Safina file her income tax returns in form 1 and 4? Right? This is the question here. That can she file her income tax returns in ITR forms 1 and 2? What has been given to us? Her son live in a house that Safina owns. So she owns one house on the outskirts of the city. After her son's wedding, Safina buys a flat in the middle of the city. She gets one more house and tells her son that he and his wife can live there. Safina earns interest of rupees 55 lakh per year from a large deposit. So 55 lakhs. So we have to see whether this is applicable or not. All right. And she lives on the interest alone. So what are the principles that you have to check here? First of all, the income. Income bracket is 50 lakhs, but that again is only on salary, business or profession. So interest on fixed deposit does not or is not covered under these three categories. So this principle is not applicable, right? So not applicable, so she is okay so far as this thing is concerned, because 50 lakhs limit is out of these three sources. So pehla wala to pass ho gaya. But the another principle here is, taxpayers owning multiple house properties will have to file more detailed ITR forms. So it's owning is not what you're doing with the property. So one of the property she is staying, one of the property she's given it to her son, but the criteria or the principle was taxpayers owning multiple house properties. In this case, does she own multiple house property? Yes. So will she be allowed to fill it in ITR 1.4? No, she has to fill in more detailed forms. And the answer is this, right? So I hope that you've seen the difference. The difference is you have to read carefully, understand what the principle is applicable to this particular thing. In my, let's say, 4 or 5 videos from now, I'll share with you, or I discuss with you how you should make notes when you're reading a passage. Notes as in how to identify what is a principle and what is not. All right. So this is the new pattern, guys. Basically, you have to read, identify the principle, and then apply the principle. Now, both, whether it is old pattern or new pattern, fundamentally, the skill being checked is your decision-making skills. That how do you come to a decision? The relevant criteria, you have to identify relevant criteria principle, and then you should know how to apply the criteria principle. So, comparison-wise between old pattern and new pattern, facts in both the cases are given, the situation or the case scenario on the, or depending on which. They give you a case scenario, and then they ask you a question on that case scenario. So that is given in both the cases, be it old pattern or new pattern. The principle in the old pattern was given to us directly. In the new pattern, it is given indirectly. That is the difference. The kind of questions, I'll discuss them at length, is primarily, let's say 40 out of 40 questions, 35 questions would be case based. So they are just like the facts, they'll give you facts, and you have to make decision on the basis of a relevant principle from the passage. So 35, or let's say 30 plus. Last year it was 35, as in CLAT 2022, 35 questions were scenario based. And the other type question is on the basis of the passage, they'll ask you which of the following is correct, which of the following is not correct. So that is basically inference based. But mainly it would be case based or scenario based questions. Okay. So how do you work on your skills so far as your legal reasoning and new pattern is concerned? Yes, you have to read a lot, and I will make a separate video on that. But you must practice past year questions also, which gives you principle and the facts. You know why? Because their principle is given to me directly. If I can't apply a principle which I know have to be applied to a fact scenario, it will be difficult for me to first identify the principle and then apply it. So my advice to you would be practice sufficient number of past year questions. You know why? Because applying principle to a fact is still relevant. As I said, over 30 questions are fact-based. You have to apply the principle. And when you practice past year questions, it helps you to identify the relevant criteria. That this is the principle, oh, this is the principle. So this practice helps you to identify the criteria in a given passage. And some exams still follow the old pattern, so it definitely helps. So you should practice past year questions. In today's class, I'll just discuss a couple of questions on the old pattern format. My next 4 classes, I would be practicing, I guess, 10 to 12 questions each in my session, which is based on past year format, which is principle and facts. All right, so this is question number 1. What will be your answer to this question? You may pause it and then, replay the video. All right. So the principle here, guys, is they must agree upon the same thing in the same sense. Then parties are bound by their agreement. So from the fact scenario, you have to figure out whether they were agreeing on the same thing in the same sense or not. So look at this. Ramesh wrote to Bimal offering him to sell his horse for 10,000. Bimal wrote back, I agree to purchase your black horse for 10,000. So maybe Ramesh is offering a different horse and Bimal obviously has stated his choice that he wants a black horse. So we don't know whether they're agreeing on the same thing in the same sense. Therefore, they will not be bound by the agreement. Will they be bound? So first decide yes, no. So it's definitely no. So my choice is B or C. So it can't be A. Maybe D. Let me look at the choices. No, because the offer made by Ramesh is not valid. Please do not use your external knowledge or knowledge of law. Here, nothing has been given in the principle about the validity of an offer. So this is out of the scope of the question of the principle. No, because the parties are not in the agreement on the same thing. Yes, this is the correct answer. This is the correct answer. Okay. Last question of the day. Just go through it once and tell me what would be your answer. Yeah. You may pause it and then come back again, guys. Yeah. So here, the consideration, if the consideration is unlawful, it is forbidden by law. Every agreement of which the object of consideration is unlawful is void. Right? So this is the principle. The object of the consideration should not be unlawful. If it is unlawful, it is forbidden. And if the consideration is unlawful, that agreement is void. Now we have to figure out whether the consideration in a given fact scenario is unlawful or not. X promises to pay Y rupees 50,000 if he commits a crime. So this is unlawful. So this consideration is unlawful, agreement would be void. X further promises to indemnify him against any liability arising thereof. Y agrees to act as per X's promise. Which of the following derivations is correct? There's a contract between X and Y? No. There's an agreement between X and Y which can be enforced by the court of law. It is void. So void cannot be enforced. There is an agreement between X and Y, okay, because they've agreed to do something, which cannot be enforced by a court of law. This is fine. Every contract is an agreement, but every agreement is not a contract, right? So they agree to do something, but that is not enforceable in a court of law. This is the correct answer. There is a voidable contract between X and Y. See, nothing is given so far voidable is concerned. In fact, we don't know what voidable is from the principle here. So do not fall in the trap of the choice which uses external knowledge. So the correct answer here is C. The relevant principle was consideration should not be unlawful. So if it is unlawful, it is void. Their consideration was unlawful, it was void, and therefore the answer is C. All right. So guys, I would be making series of practice questions, and it will be small videos, not very long. And as I said in my introduction, first attend the questions in our portal. The sign up process is given below in the description. So that would be really, really helpful. Also, if you want me to make videos on some other things, please put it in the description. I'll definitely make a video on that if I find that is useful for you. And if you like our channel, please subscribe to the channel. That will help you prepare in a better way.
We at Mentors Capital have curated the best test series for you. We can confidently claim that our test series is best in the market. So go and see it for yourself. Remember, coaching kahin se bhi. Test series from Mentors Capital.